Hello, everyone, and welcome to Up for Grabs, the only IQA game show where you get to see four esteemed analysts from across the country dig into each other and make each other look like fools. And we're going to go from starting on the East Coast with Matt Panico of SCQC. Matt, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I'm liking my chances. I uh, I had the advantage of viewing World Cup 6 at a distance, so I feel like I can take these fools.
Okay, and from Michigan State, the runner of the fantastic blog From the Keeper Zone, we have Tyler Rafferty. Tyler, how are you feeling about your chances today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I turned 21 earlier this week, so I'm riding a high right now. Feeling pretty good about myself.
Hopefully that benefits you. I see your sign is proclaiming that you will get more than 5 points. Then, representing the entire nation of Spain, we have Alex Clark. How are you doing today, Alex?
I'm pretty good. I feel awful about my chances today. Let's see what happens.
Okay, and then out at UCLA, we have Vanessa Goh. How are you doing today, Vanessa?
I'm great, thank you.
Okay, and so just to give everyone a quick rundown, the show will begin, and the analysts will be asked a number of points. They'll be asked questions. They will be scored based on their answers. They can also get negative points. They can be muted if their answer is bafflingly stupid. There will be cuts, and eventually we will have a showdown between the final two, and they will win some sort of prize. I doubt they actually will, though. And now, for the first question, what are the thoughts that everyone has on World Cup 6 outside of the finals match? Alex, you're up first.
I thought it was great. A big improvement from last year. I thought that outside of finals, I was really surprised that Paris actually won a game, and that was probably the number one moment of the entire World Cup for me.
Why was that your number one moment?
Because to see someone come in the front, like spend all that money and spend all that effort to get there, and then actually come away with something after all their hard work, that really shows a lot to me.
Okay, and then Vanessa, speaking of Paris, your team played them. What are your thoughts on the World Cup outside of the finals?
Outside of finals, since I didn't go to the last World Cup and this is my first one, I don't really have a reference point. Overall, it was really interesting because there was such a large disparity in skill between the teams. So our first day compared to our second day were completely the opposite. Like we were winning by 100 on the first day. The second day we came close, obviously, to lost to Texas, and then to Baylor and Emerson we were very close. So it was really interesting to see the huge gap that still exists at World Cup play.
Okay, we got you two tied at 3 points apiece. Tyler, your thoughts?
I just want to point out real quick that the guy has a Spanish flag, says his favorite moment was a French team winning. Anyone else?
The smack talk has begun.
Well, hey, there was no Spanish team. I would have been rooting for them the whole time.
But no, I think the coolest thing we've ever seen was teams really developing concrete defenses. I was watching the live stream, and whoever was commenting the Maryland game kept calling the Maryland defense the diamond shell. And
that was Cody Kubido of LSU.
Yeah, shout out to him. And I think we're really going to start to see some of that. Like with the Baylor defense, it's very recognizable. They put three quaffle players, one on each hoop, basically, and kind of like a zone-ish defense, and have another quaffle player press the ball. We're going to see defenses like that, like Maryland's get names. We're going to see defenses like Ohio State's get names where they play a front-back beater set, rather than most teams really play a side-to-side beater defense. And that's really going to go a long way for the development of the sport, much in the same way. I'm sure there's plenty of football fans out there, plenty of soccer fans out there. In soccer, you can have four defenders there versus one defender and then three defenders behind them. In football, American football, the NFL, you have 3-4 defense versus a 4-3 defense. It really goes a long way to not only the fan experience but the game playing matchups, and Quidditch is right on the cusp of that right now for World Cup 6.
Okay, and then you're now sitting at 4 points. Vanessa and Alex each at 3. Matt, what are your thoughts?
So I have the experience advantage of having attended both World Cups 4 and 5, and as far as I can tell from the outside, this World Cup was just so well organized. I could see the pressure points back in World Cups 4 and 5 where people weren't sure where to go. They had shortages of refs for certain games, and really they didn't have the live streaming that happened at this World Cup that allowed me to experience it maybe not as well as these people who actually made it to the Cup, but I was able to see some very exciting games. Also, Lost Boys Bowling Green. I don't think I need to finish that sentence.
I mean, you're more than welcome to finish the sentence, though, for the sake of, the show.
Okay, the game was incredible. The game, it went on for, I think it was 43 minutes. Both teams just collapsing as soon as they hit the sidelines. That's Quidditch the way I like to see it played, where the teams are just giving their all, and then at the end, they hugged it out.
Okay, everyone, you heard it here first. Matt Panico likes Quidditch, where people collapse on the sidelines afterwards. I'm not going to give you full points, though, because unlike everyone else, you didn't go. But you got 2 points. So we got Tyler in the lead with 4, Vanessa, Alex with 3, and Matt with 2. But then let's get your guys' thoughts on the finals match in particular, and who better to start with than the person that played in it, Vanessa. What was going through your head? What do you think of that game, looking back?
All right, I will try to be as unbiased about this as possible, but going in, it really sucked because we didn't have Andy, one of our great beaters that no one knows about. Alex was hurt, and Clara was also hurt, but she still tried to play. Though we didn't have those people either at full strength or playing, I think we still would have lost. I think if we did have everyone at 100%, UT would have still beat us, just plainly due to how physical and in shape that they were. Like, the thing about our team is we have really good strategy, but strategy can only take you so far when you're not Cody Marshall and you could truck people for an hour and not get tired. So I think overall, UT did deserve to win, even if we had all of our people.
Right. You're definitely getting some bonus points there for being unbiased and, not making excuses. And Tyler, what are your thoughts on that finals match between UCLA and Texas?
I think she hit it right on the head with athleticism. Athleticism is the key. My freshman year at Michigan State, the RA above me played on the practice squad of Michigan State basketball team. Anyone who watches college basketball knows Michigan State's always in the headlines, always has a great team every year. And he played on the practice squad. And he practiced 20 hours a week to be on the practice squad. I don't know how much University of Texas has really practiced, but it takes that many hours to just get the athleticism to compete on a high level. I'm sure they put in a lot more hours than many other teams. I remember seeing their documentary. They talked about not drinking soda, like a 10, 11-minute documentary online. Anyone that's committed enough not to drink soda, something simple, something that's heck cheaper than water some places, is definitely a team that's committed to having the athleticism, and it shows on the field. There were plenty of plays where they had blocked bludgers with the quaffle, where they'd break a couple tackles and then jump out of the way of another bludger from UCLA's fantastic beaters that have amazing cannon arms. The amount of athleticism that takes will break down just about any strategy, especially in a sport that's only 6 years old. There's really not much UCLA could have done.
Right. I was going to get you up there to 7 points, but you kept calling it soda. And being from Chicagoland, it's pop. So now we're going to go to Matt Panico again. Matt, what were your thoughts on that finals match? I know you've been studying the footage, preparing for this day.
I have been, and that was it was a heartbreaking match. I could see UCLA's fight just kind of go, not completely away, but definitely I could see them shutting down after the first 5 or 10 minutes. When they lost a couple calls on beats near their hoops that UT managed to score off of, and they lost one of their larger players, and just you could see that they had the fight, but they just couldn't keep bludger control, and they just got frustrated. And I've seen this in plenty of games, and it's just so heartbreaking to watch. My other comment is that I was extremely impressed with not only UT's athleticism, because we can all admire how large these people are when they're from Texas, but they were able to set up their plays and really focus on their fundamentals on the run, where whenever UCLA got the ball, they would kind of slow it up around midfield, their keeper would walk it up, and they would try to set up a play. UT just knew where they had to be, their passes were impeccable, and you could tell that they just had been working their fundamentals nonstop since the Southwest Regionals.
Right, and someone that was at Southwest Regionals, Alex, what did you think of that finals match?
Well, first of all, I think that UT is absolutely incredible. I mean, they're disciplined in being able to get up at 5:30 in the morning and do insanity workouts together, not having any soda or Coke or pop, whatever you want to call it,
See,
for
Chadwick saved himself by including everything there.
yeah, and then for like I think it's a month before World Cup and 2 weeks before any tournament, something like that. That is just incredible discipline, and any leader who can pull that off on a young team is just absolutely incredible. But I know that Alex Brown and Tom Marks and a couple other players from UCLA were at the medical tent while the game was going on, which really didn't help UCLA. And my opinion is that UCLA's teamwork is absolutely the best in the IQA. UT is the best team overall because they have the most athletic and most consistent players. UT, if you look at them, look at their scores over the tournament, they keep going higher and higher and higher. But that's not because they're not other teams are getting worse or anything. It's because they are so athletic and so trained that they can stay consistent and nobody else falls away. But I think that if UCLA was able to have those players and have their full teamwork there, it would have been more of a match. But I still think UT all the way.
Right, okay, so you're getting 4 points for that, and going into the third question, we have Tyler and Vanessa tied at 6, Matt at 5, and Alex leading the way with 7, making his country of Spain proud. And now, next question is, there were a lot of upsets during the World Cup. What is your upset of the tournament? Matt, we're going to start with you.
So I'm sure this name is going to come up again in the other 3 answers, but I'm going to give you Bowling Green over Maryland. This game, it was, nobody would have called this game for Bowling Green going into the World Cup, and on top of that, it made me very upset to watch it because I could feel for the Maryland players that, they had an early lead, their teamwork was working out, and then they got a few cards and they just lost their momentum. And Bowling Green, hats off to them. These guys came out of, maybe not nowhere, but none of us pay enough attention to the Midwest. So they came completely unexpected and rampaged through the bracket. And well played, Bowling Green.
Okay. Speaking of not paying attention to the Midwest, we'll let Tyler jump in next, since I'm sure he does pay attention to the Midwest, or at least I'm hoping he does.
I do. I pay some here and there. I look out my window and see the Midwest.
So,
But,
what was your upset of the tournament there?
the upset of the tournament had to be Central Michigan against Villanova. I mean, of course, Bowling Green got a lot of attention through the live stream, but the CMU Villanova game was definitely one of those just all emotional games. Villanova came out and they were leading for quite a while. And then after just an incredible goal by David Wilbur, I actually talked to him just before the show. He kind of gave me some facts and what happened there. He scored a goal, jumping over a Villanova player, and that sort of just spectacular goal of that very rare goal you don't see very often just gives this huge emotional lift. And there's one thing you can see from the Midwest watching the Bowling Green games, watching the Central games. The Midwest has a lot of energy for each other, which is a lot different than happened last year. It's been something that's been great to be in the Midwest this year. And that carried right over into the CMU Villanova game. All that energy just propelled CMU to win. Not only that, but CMU brought a new seeker to World Cup 6, his second tournament only, and he ended up making the catch against Billy Greco, and one of the eighth man's top 5 seekers to watch for World Cup 6. That alone could put this game into talk about being the greatest upset. But that combined with the emotion, combined with that turning point moment of that goal scoring, definitely has to make this the upset of the tournament.
Okay, Alex, what was your upset?
Well, I was going to go with Bowling Green, Maryland, because Bowling Green was definitely the dark horse and nobody saw coming. But I'm going to have to go back to the Southwest and pick Oklahoma State losing to Paris, which I've already mentioned at the beginning of my intro. It was very upsetting for OSU. They had a last-second qualification at Southwest Regionals over Sam Houston, and as we all know, Sam Houston absolutely dominated in D2. But after that game, after that upset, I am not so certain that it wasn't lucky that OSU made World Cup and Sam Houston just had a fluke game.
Right. Okay. And what about Paris winning that game kind of made it the upset?
Paris winning that game, they've never played a tournament in their lives besides the random mercenary tournaments during the summer. But they have no experience. They don't even know the rules. I'm sure in the first couple of games, the ref were getting onto them a lot. For them to win a game at World Cup is absolutely astonishing, since all the American teams had to actually qualify and all the rabble was eliminated, all that stuff. Oh my gosh, Paris, great job.
Okay, and then Vanessa, what was your upset?
I would have to say Miami versus BGSU, based on the fact that UCLA played both of those teams, Miami earlier at Hollywood Bowl, and Miami we were neck and neck, and they won by the snitch catch, and obviously we thought they were going to be a really good team at World Cup. Then we played Bowling Green the first day, and we won by more than 100 points. So when I heard that Bowling Green versus Miami was happening, I was like, Miami's not going to have a problem at all. They're going to walk through them and move on, and we might see them later on. The fact that they beat them was one of the most surprising things I've heard of the entire season. And I watched the game last night again, and I think one of the reasons was there was a lot of stoppage time. So if Miami did have a chance to pull ahead, they didn't get enough time to actually do that, which I think was possible, but they also looked like they were off their game compared to when we played them at Hollywood Bowl. So for that, that was the biggest upset.
Okay. One thing so far, none of you guys are insulting each other. This is
Whoa.
this is a far cry from what I experienced with Dan Hansen and Doug.
No, Mr. Spanish flag over there didn't say Paris winning the game was the best upset. He said Oklahoma State losing.
Yes.
He didn't care about France, the French team winning, unlike he mentioned earlier. He's flip-flopping over there.
He makes a good point. Feel like I'm going to take away a point from Alex, but then also take a point from Tyler because, insulting the Spanish national flag.
There we go.
On that note, we've got Tyler, you sitting at 8, Vanessa, you're sitting at 9, Matt, you're sitting at 7, and Alex, you are sitting at 9 as well. Man, it's just a far cry from something when you might have Doug Wiston and Dan Hansen in the room together where they will insult each other all day. But
we're starting to move out of the World Cup questions. I think I've got this booked for upset of the game show.
Oh, really?
All right,
I still think it's just me and Vanessa going to take you to the very finals, and y'all can just go home now.
Probably.
Vanessa's just sitting here, calmly waiting for everyone else to just abandon all hope. But as for the next question, who was your most unexpected contender this year? Let's start with Matt.
Unexpected contender. The other people in this are welcome to contest this, and I'm sure had I been geographically close to this team, I would have seen it coming. But I had never heard Baylor's name in connection to Quidditch before they took the Southwest Regional. And, as far as I knew, the Southwest region was locked down by UT and A&M and sometimes LSU when they had a good day. And the fact that, some other team from Texas came and won their regional was just blew my mind.
Right. Vanessa, what are your thoughts on the unexpected contender?
I mean, I would have to agree with the Baylor choice, but for a different reason. Because coming into World Cup, we knew what their defense was, and we had watched their games, and we had practiced against what their defense was. So we thought we would have a one-up when we actually played them, because we were like, we won't be surprised like other teams were and caught off guard. So even though we specifically practiced the special defense of theirs and thought we could defeat it, we had a really hard time before the Snitch came back on the field. So not only the fact that they had beaten UT and A&M, but we were as prepared as we could be for that match, and we were still neck and neck. That was probably why I would put them in my unexpected contender.
Alex, hanging around the Southwest, are you going to agree, or are you going to pick another unexpected contender?
I think they're all idiots. I mean, if you watch Baylor's videos, if you watch YouTube, you would see that they're absolutely incredible. I mean, and Paul Willard, he went to the same high school that Drew Wazikowski went to, pretty much the only high school team in the world, Keller High School, right next to me, actually. So there's no chance that they weren't going to do well. I mean, Baylor's been trained by Texas and taken on the wing of LSU and A&M. I mean, there's absolutely no chance they were going to do amazing. The real unexpected contender I thought was Bowling Green. They have some players, but I didn't think they would have what it takes to pull it off and stay athletic through the entire tournament and really hold it together and be the dark horse that nobody expected.
All right, and then Tyler, who is your unexpected contender this year?
Can someone tell me where Baylor and Bowling Green finished in their regional tournaments? Wasn't it, Bowling Green finished second? Didn't Baylor make it pretty far?
Baylor won, which is why I picked them as my.
How are they unexpected? If they finish 1 and 2 in their regionals, how are they unexpected? I don't understand.
Unexpected of the year, not of the World Cup tournament.
They're still not unexpected. The real unexpected was Central Michigan, and they were a first-year official team. In fact, they didn't even make the World Cup initially, and yet they make it into bracket play. They upset Villanova. No one still really talks about Central, but yet they've really played fantastic. You can even make it a case for the Lost Boys, even though they finished second. If I want to jump on board great regional teams like everyone else is doing here, but there's a stigma against community teams as well. Yet the Lost Boys showed how fantastic of a team they were. Having that dramatic game with Bowling Green, and I don't know how you don't pick a community team or a team that shined that that really did well at World Cup that didn't do well previous to that.
I don't think that stigma exists anymore. I mean, just wait till next year when Lone Star comes around and is going to whip all your. I can't curse on people.
No, you cannot. That would have been like a massive point deduction. So good catch.
Also a red card.
It is also a red card. So good catch, RDT member Alex Clark.
Yeah.
And now, actually, that's a really good transition for the future of community teams. Alex, I know you were about to say something about, I believe something in the state of Texas that has to pertain to the future of community teams. What was on your mind?
Well, I'm actually not going to talk about them because they should stay under the radar. We're just going to kind of come up and destroy everybody later. But I'm going to talk about Scroods and Lost Boys, those kind of teams. Those kind of teams are popping up in like metropolitan areas like Dallas or the Bay Area, Los Angeles. They are like absolute perfect breeding grounds for a community team. And now that people are graduating, community teams are definitely going to be on the rise. All those good players from UCLA coming out, they're going to join Lost Boys or something like that. And they're just going to kick everybody's butt, and they're going to win. It's going to be amazing.
Vanessa kind of smirked when you mentioned UCLA's players joining the Lost Boys. Why is that, Vanessa?
I honestly don't know how many of our people are planning to stay in LA or play Quidditch after they graduate. So I don't know how many graduates you expect from USC or UCLA going to the Lost Boys. If a bunch of us do decide to do that, I think the Lost Boys have to sit down and see who they might have to cut from their team. If they're going to do cuts, I think that another LA team might have to form. That's only if a lot of graduating people are staying in LA, though. If none of us stay, I don't know how much further Lost Boys are going to after we all graduate.
So, other than the Lost Boys, what do you think of community teams going forward in general?
I mean, in the LA area, I think that's going to be really good. As already said, a good breeding ground for teams. Also, Lone Star Chiefs, I don't know a lot about who is actually going to join that team. I know Molly is really adamant about it and wanted me to move to Texas to join it, so we'll see. But I'm really interested to see how many UT people are going to play after they graduate and if they're going to stay in Texas, because that team is going to be a threat going into if they do.
Right. And Matt, you're a member of a community team. What do you think the future is?
Right, so as the president of a community team, I'm incredibly excited by all the names that I'm hearing are going to be graduating. I, wasn't able to hang out with people at the Cup, so these names are just kind of like filtering to me over Facebook, and some of these names that, clearly are not going to give up the sport and are going to be joining community teams, I'm very excited. This is not the world of community teams that I went into when I graduated from undergrad 2 years ago. There are teams in most of the major metropolitan areas. Kedzie Teller is starting a team in Boston that I'm very excited to see what they can do. There's this team starting in Texas, and I think even some of the smaller, less well-known community teams might rise up and make a name for themselves on the national stage. And I think this is the year that college players are going to start looking at the community teams and saying, hey, these people have been playing for 5 years and they are outclassing us at every step. This is not fair. And I think there's going to be a big discussion about that later this year.
So is Steel City doing anything to recruit players by any chance?
We're working on it. We have a few players graduating, moving to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is less of a new graduate hub as some other cities. However, it was just named the best city to live in America. So hopefully we'll be seeing some fresh recruits.
Okay, and then Tyler, what do you think the future of community teams is? You mentioned Lost Boys isn't up as an unexpected contender because they were community teams. So what's the future of those teams now that the Lost Boys showed up on the big stage?
The future of the team is going to be consistency. There's going to be a lot of consistency from year to year for the roster. I'm not for the Lost Boys this year. I think 2 of them are actually going to form in another team in Los Angeles, which is going to be great for the Los Angeles area and Quidditch in general. But everybody's mentioned teams that are sprouting up all over places. Texas, there's a team in Boston. It's called the Boston Riot, by the way, Matt. Be sure to know their name. They're going to be a great team.
Kedgie's team is the Boston Massacre. The Boston Riot is Emerson's B team.
No, my bad.
He got you there, and now you're losing a point there, Tyler.
Yeah, I'll take a point for that. I should know that. I've been really excited about their team. It's going to be what the community teams are going to be in the future, and that is these 2 or 3 great named, well-known players moving to the same city, and then the team just getting a whole bunch of hype, and that experience is going to be teaching people. From that experience, what we're going to see in the next 3 to 4 years is the first actual Quidditch coach, in the sense that a coach is going to be 5, 6, even older than the players they're coaching. I'm going to have this amazing experience from some 18, 19-year-old coming out of high school, actually having a legitimate amount of experience. For everyone that's played team sports, you've known the experience of having someone who's well older than you, seen several players come through, play for them, go on and play.
Why do they have to be older though? What about like Mitch or Molly? They're great coaches. Mitch is, Vanessa knows.
Yeah, if you don't think there are coaches in this league right now, you need to look around.
Yeah, no, there are some great knowledgeable people out there. I'm talking about a coach in the sense of the traditional word of a coach. Life experiences as well. Coaching life experiences, really giving that. Any advice you need, you can come to me because I've been around for a while and I've worked so hard. That's the type of coach I'm talking about.
We don't need psychiatrists though. We need actual position coaches that actually know what they're doing, like Mitch.
Great, there are plenty of people that can teach. I've been taught by players. I wouldn't have been in this sport if there weren't people that knew how to play. Lawrence Team USA player, right there. He taught me a lot just by playing, just by seeing the athleticism. But he's not the same type that I've had in my football coaches, which have really told me, helped guide me what should I look for as my next step in life after I leave high school, after I leave college. Where should I go? There's something different about that gives a whole new team sport dynamic. When somebody's older, there tends to be immediate listen rather than a whole peers working with each other, peers putting peer edited ideas. When you have an older coach, it gives a whole new dynamic to the team. It gives a whole new dynamic to the sport in general. And then along with that will come consistent coaching, people known from year to year. That's going to give the fans a whole new experience. That's going to give people that are jumping, talking about the Lost Boys. They love the Lost Boys. They love the Boston Massacre coming up. They're really excited about it. They're going to know players from year to year to year to year. There's going to be the same players on there. They're going to buy player jerseys. You're going to see a lot more of people knowing players per year. Everyone's excited about Daniel Dougherty from BGSU. Guess what? He's going to graduate soon. He's not going to be there forever. But if he continues to play Quidditch outside of college, I imagine he'll play for 5-6 years. And then you're going to have that same name on the same team for 5 to 6 years. That's going to give a whole new, just a new fan experience. Even other players playing against the same. It'll allow more rivalries to build, true rivalries, not rivalries taken off from school histories that two teams don't actually ever play each other, which there are plenty of.
Tyler, you're going really long here, buddy.
Okay.
Say one more thing, I might have to start deducting points. So, on that note, we saw a lot of fantastic players at World Cup. Who do you guys think is the MVP, not just for World Cup, but for the entire 2012-2013 season? Let's start with Vanessa because she had a very long quiet time. She neglected to start talking about Mitch, which I think we're all grateful for. So,
Yep. All right. Well.
MVP.
Okay, for MVP, and I don't know if it's sort of cheating to say, but I'm gonna go with Stony Dickrod for Lost Boys. And
It's my answer.
that's your correct. Yes. Okay, so I would say Stony Dickrod because Lost Boys weren't really a contending team before Steve and Tony. Like when we would play them, we would win by 100 points or more, and same with SC. Once I know Steve did join the team before Tony, but once they had both of them on, it added a lot of the missing pieces that Lost Boys needed to make their team really good. Steve, both as a chaser and as one of the best seekers I've seen, has really helped them in a lot of clutch games. Tony on offense is something they really needed. They needed like a big athletic tank who really knew what he was doing, and the fact that he can play for probably for the whole game when they only have one keeper sub is really essential. Without them, I highly doubt Lost Boys would have made it to the finals of Western Cup or finals of Western Cup, and they would not have made it up as far at World Cup. So Stony Dickrod, MVP.
Okay, and now that Matt is possibly needing to think of a new one, are you just going to agree and explain some more?
I'm going to agree. I did have a backup in case somebody stole my very creative answer. Other than Stony Dickrod, I think I would have to give it to Augie Monroe. Kid's incredible. I don't even think he started the UCLA team, which just shows that he trusts his team and that he knows what his strengths are and he plays them. And he's willing to make the drive. He won't stop and dump it off just to give another player an option, but he's got the passing skills. And, he's got the passing skills, he's got the running skills, he's got the shooting skills, he's got the blocking skills. The kid's incredible.
So who'd you say?
Without him, I don't know if they would have lost the finals, but it would have been a much closer game.
Alex, you said something there. What did you say?
Yeah, you mentioned Augie Monroe and you mentioned UCLA. He's definitely on UT.
He didn't start against UCLA in the finals.
Ah, gotcha.
Was my point. Right. I'm aware of what team he's on.
And so, Alex, who is your MVP for the season?
Well, I was thinking on the same team, but different player because UT has a whole bunch of amazing chasers, amazing people that could have done it. Chris Morris could have stepped up and been the keeper, and UT still would have won. I think that Colin Capello, the beater for UT, was absolutely instrumental in how well he did. People are usually intimidated to play UT, not because they play dirty or anything like that, because they are so good, and the beaters actually have to watch out because Colin Capello is going to be right there. He's going to knock you out, and he is absolutely in charge of their defense and even their offense sometimes. He is absolutely the MVP of UT and of this year.
Okay, and then Tyler, you're bringing it up. Who is your MVP of the year?
Sammy Sunshine, the seeker from BG. He, outside of World Cup, he's had to make catches. BG hasn't been able to pull out away from every single team. In fact, there's a really close game in the Midwest Regionals against Ohio State. The quaffle score was 30-10 before the snitch was caught, I believe. And then he brings that to World Cup where, it was significantly warmer, the humidity and everything. If you go on the Facebook pages of all the northern groups, they're complaining like crazy, but yet he makes catches against Greenhouse, and he makes catches against DeCarlo. He makes fabulous catches against top flight seekers. I believe he caught snitches against 3 of the top 5 seekers to watch that was put out by the 8th man. With performances like that, I don't really know how you can choose anyone else. He has to end the game, despite all the attention Daniel Doherty's getting, 80 Milligan, Samantha Elgin, and all the BG beaters. the seeker still has to end the game, and he just made some really great catches when he needed to, and not only in World Cup but in regionals, which was qualifying for World Cup. And I would give it to him.
Okay, so going into the final cut, we've got Tyler sitting at 17 points, Vanessa at 18 points, Matt with 17 points, and Alex with 18 points. So we've got a nice tie for last place between Matt and Tyler. Matt, you would have been actually cut if you and Alex hadn't been ripping Tyler on his previous answer, which actually knocked a few points of his off. So, as a tiebreaker, you two, we're going to ask you who has the best hat in the IQA and why. Matt, you're up.
Best hat in the IQA.
Yes. Tyler, you got an answer?
Me?
Yes. No, the other Tyler.
Oh, okay. There's another Tyler. No, it's no. That's a good question. I want to say me, but I can't say me. I wear a nice, classy, all-white baseball cap. Neutral colors goes with everything. It's pretty nice. Not gonna lie.
Okay, and Matt, who do you got?
This is a bit of a throwback that some of you might not get, but Doug Puchko, the former seeker for QC Pitt, wore a yellow fedora seeking at a few tournaments, and it was just classy as hell. He wore it to World Cup 5, and this thing, it was a little bit cheesy, but that's in the spirit of Quidditch.
Since neither of you actually picked a quite famous hat, I'm gonna have to go to the better described one, and that's definitely the golden fedora. Tyler, you did get more than 5 points, but you're our first cut. What are your departing words?
I lost like 20 points because you don't like the fact that I say soda. Okay, it's called soda where I came from. I grew up calling it soda. It is called soda, S-O-D-A. So I'm gonna enjoy a glass of soda.
And we muted him. Nah, but you'll be back. I know you'll be back. Most likely after Midwest Fantasy. So you can come try to get that lucrative title once again. But we're going to go to commercial break right now. We will be right back to see who between Alex, Matt, and Vanessa is next to get cut and who will be advancing on to the next round. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We had to sadly say goodbye to Tyler Rafferty. He did not have enough points because he has a tendency to say soda instead of pop, or soda pop, or Coke. We did see Alex Clark catch himself when he almost said soda, so that's why he didn't get points deducted. But Tyler, from everyone in the Chicagoland area, I can safely say it is pop, not soda. Or if you're Matt Panico right now, a tall glass of water. So, moving on. We have Vanessa and Alex tied for the lead at 18 points and Matt Panico at 7. So, Matt, you're going to get caught off the 17, my bad. If I could deduct a point for myself, I would do that, but I don't have that ability because I have no points. So, Matt, you get to lead off with the 7th question, and who is your favorite for next year?
I was saying earlier that I think next year we're really going to see some powerhouse community teams, and I'm going to stick with that. I think there are a lot of big names that are graduating that are not going to leave the sport. I think the community teams are just going to hit everybody by surprise. So if I had to pick a singular favorite, I would say this new Texas team that's starting. But in general, my picks go to the community teams. Lost Boys, Boston Massacre, Texas.
Okay. Only getting 1 point because you only briefly mentioned it at the end, but let's see. I mean, you picked a wide overarching one, but you're still safe right now. You're tied with them. Alex can easily lose points. Alex, who is your contender next year, your favorite?
Well, actually, I think Matt is totally wrong on this. Might be a little bit of an unpopular opinion because Lone Star is going to have all like the most amazing players, but the thing is, they only get to practice once a month. And as we know, UT has such discipline and such amazing athleticism because they practice every day. They practice those fundamentals every single day and got on it. My favorite for next year is actually going to be Baylor. again, the Southwest is definitely the breeding ground for success and Quidditch as we know it right now. They are absolutely incredible because they practice so much in this hot air. Baylor was actually really young this year, and they still won Southwest Regional. And even though it was a tight game against UT, tight game against A&M, they were able to overcome and not choke. They were able to come away with tight situations, and they are mostly sophomores, freshmen. They're a very young team. So this next year, with all that capability and what they've learned from UT's discipline and UT's athleticism, they are absolutely going to come away with a World Cup title next year. I'm calling it.
Okay, and then Vanessa, who is your favorite for next year?
Well, I think community teams are really up in the air because it depends on who will be joining their team, so I'm not going to go for them. Baylor, I think, can be beaten if people figure out their defensive strategy a little bit more and how to work around that. For now, I'm going to say UT and A&M. UT because though they are losing a lot of seniors, they have a really deep bench, and they know how to remain disciplined, as I think someone said before. So I think they're still going to be in the running for the title. A&M, I think, since I think they're losing one person maybe, or two people, since they took that really hard loss to Texas, I think that's really going to light a fire under them, and they're going to be able to train a lot harder. They're going to maintain all of their starters, and they're going to basically come back and show everyone that they do deserve the title next year. So I think people should not just ignore them for their loss at this World Cup and watch out for them next year.
Okay, and now we've got Vanessa and Alex each sitting at 21. Matt, you're sitting at 18, so you're going to need to blow it out.
You gave me 1 point because I wouldn't pick a team, but you gave Vanessa 3?
She picked 2 teams. See, what you did, you picked community teams.
Hey, going against the host right there should be minus points.
I'm not going to subtract points from Matt for that. I will subtract a point from you, though, for telling me how to do my job. So, Matt, it's helping you. Also, she explained. You said community teams in general, then we're like Lost Boys.
Yeah, I explained why UT and A&M, so thank you.
But A&M, your analysis was not very good because A&M right now is having a lot of trouble because they have a lot of internal disputes, a lot of internal fighting at practices and stuff. But they're going to be good. UT and A&M are going to be good. They're just not going to be as high as Baylor is because the student's finally going to be able to beat the master.
Ooh, we have some smack talk going on now, and Nessa's like smirking. She obviously knows something that none of us do. She's probably going to pull out a huge answer for this, and that is the unexpected contender for next year. The team that will come out of absolutely nowhere, so this is actually a difficult question. But who is going to be next year's Baylor? Let's start with Alex.
Next year's Baylor. I'm going to go back to my home school and say Texas Tech. They have a really young team of very athletic 4 more high school football players that are coming up and are going to join the team. And in this past couple of years, they've had a couple monetary and leadership issues, and they haven't been able to actually come to tournaments. But they were able to keep up with LSU their first tournament because of keeping up with their athleticism and everything. And they were so injured at the first tournament of the year this year that they weren't able to keep it up. So next year they're going to come back and really show people what's up.
Okay, Matt, who is your unexpected for next year?
So, like Alex, I'm going to go for a team that I once played for. The University of Pittsburgh were good in World Cup 2. Were very good in World Cup 3 and then 4. World Cup 5 kind of dropped off. This year at World Cup 6, they graduated their first class of players and really, kind of dropped off everyone's radar. I think they're ripe to come back next year. They just picked up a huge class of freshmen and sophomores. They still have, they're graduating maybe 2 people this year, so they still have some senior leadership to keep coaching. And I think, it's time for Pitt to come back up that roller coaster.
Okay, and they might have dropped off due to the radioactive alligator jerseys as you described them earlier. So
I think radioactive alligator jerseys can only help their cause.
Okay, and then Vanessa, who do you see coming out of nowhere next year?
All right, I'm gonna name a team I don't know if any of you have heard of, but Sierra College. They played at Cinco Cup and at the Stanford tournament here. Basically, they're a team full of former athletes, like football players, water ball players, soccer players, who have just like this huge. They're like a bunch of Cody Marshalls, basically. They have no idea what they're doing. If they can find someone who can coach them and tell them how to play the game, they will be phenomenal. They beat Stanford without, like, one of their beaters thought he was a chaser for a moment, and they still beat Stanford. So the fact, if they can also get more girls, I think they only had 2 girls, so they had no subs. If they can recruit more people and have someone that actually knows strategy and knows how to play the game, I think they're going to be really good and really good for West Coast teams to play against.
Okay.
We all know the West is weak, though. I can't believe I didn't pick. I can't believe I didn't pick the other Southwest powerhouse, Arkansas. I mean, they came to Southwest Regionals, absolutely dominated their pool. I mean, nobody expected them to come up, and you could just see them wanting to win next year. I mean, Paul Rainbow and Joey Rainbow, they had the highest score of anybody at Southwest Regional. Why didn't y'all pick them?
I don't know. Why didn't you pick them?
I had to go to my alma mater because they're going to come up, and nobody knows who even they are.
Fair enough. Quick, Matt. You're down 1 point. Quick, say something to get that 1 point and go to a tiebreaker.
Why didn't anybody pick Tennessee Tech?
Oh, good point.
Explain why Tennessee Tech.
Tennessee Tech came out of nowhere at the Southern Regionals and, ran train on so many other teams. And I haven't, I heard buzz about them in a week or two after that regional, and then I haven't heard a peep about them.
Yeah, I got to see them at the Rocky Top tournament, which was really not a bunch of inexperienced teams, but they came, showed everybody up, even though it was snowing. They have so much athleticism on that team, and they could just outrun people because they're so fast.
Okay, so going into that second cut, we've got Vanessa, who is safe right now with 24 points. We have Matt and Alex each tied at 21. Matt has this very calm glass of water to drink right there, and Alex just has this smirk on his face as if he knows what the tiebreaker question is going to be, which I don't know what the tiebreaker question is going to be. So right now, we will do this the old-fashioned way of, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. Alex, since you had a lead for longer, you get to pick the first number.
What a horrible host. I'm going to go with 5.
Matt,
Can't even think of a tiebreaker question? What the heck are you?
Matt, what was it? What's your guess?
I'm going to guess 6.
Okay, so I was going to just take Alex off, but Matt actually guessed better. It was 7. So, Alex, you got that last little jab at me, so and other than insulting me, what are your final words for this episode?
Final words are going to be...
It's funny because we muted him. And so now, strike a pose for the camera. We're going to let Alex get to his meetings that he has because he is a committed IQA member. And we will be right back with a final between Matt Panico and Vanessa Goh. Stay tuned. Okay, so after we had to unceremoniously eject Alexander Clark for, spitting some harsh words towards the way of the host, we've got our final round of Vanessa Goh and Matt Panico. How do you guys feel so far? Do you think you'd come this far?
I mean, I feel pretty good. I don't think I'm much of an analyst, so the fact that I got this far makes me pretty proud. So I feel good.
Matt, what's up?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I think I got over my early hurdle of not having actually attended the World Cup, and I'm on to firmer ground now.
Okay. So now, the first question I'm going to ask you for this last round is, what's the next step for the IQA after World Cup 6? It was what seems to be held in high regard as the most universally liked tournament, most well-run. So what's the next step after World Cup 6? Matt, take it away.
Globalization. I think we're nearing the point where the IQA needs to be a global body that oversees the sport, that runs standards, creates a standard quaffle, which is part of this this future that I see. We're going to have a standard quaffle come out that's not a deflated volleyball. We're going to have an IQA that is dedicated to standards, reffing, writing the rule book, and running the World Cup, but not directly involved in running regionals or national tournaments, because with teams growing in other countries and with the IQA's desire to expand across the world, we need to allow other countries to create their own national governing bodies, and in addition to that, the U.S. needs a separate national governing body.
Okay, Vanessa, what's the next step in your opinion?
I don't know how much IQA has been thinking about this or what they're actually working on right now, but I think there's going to have to be a separation between the players and teams who have joined purely for the whimsy of the sport and the teams that do want to be serious and do want to compete on a high level. I don't know if this will have to be more of a D1 and D2 thing that's going to have to spread throughout the entire league, or IQA is going to have to split themselves up into two different leagues. But I think if you compare a team like Texas or UCLA to some of the teams that we play who are just taking it for fun and not so seriously, we're playing two entirely different games. And I think if you want to have a consistent competitive basis, like that's what I want to do, I would like to play more teams like that. And there's other teams who don't take it as seriously, who maybe not as athletic, that get hurt more when they play competitive teams like us. And we take it seriously, so it ends up not being fun for other people. I think there will have to be a separation somewhere down the line. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think it needs to be considered.
Okay.
Can I rebut?
Yes.
I've always been of the opinion that whimsy and competition do not have to be against each other. I think that one of the great things of Quidditch is that it draws people from all these different backgrounds, and if they get into Quidditch because they're excited to run around in broomsticks, great. I don't think we need to discourage that at all, put those people in D2. And I think the competition with elite teams makes those teams better, which improves the entire league, ups our level of play, and I don't think we need to exclude teams that are in this for the whimsy, just so that we can masquerade as a more...
I'm not saying exclude whimsy from competitive teams. If you're both whimsical and competitive, you can play in a competitive team. I'm saying there's a difference between teams who are competitive like UT, who really don't care about Harry Potter or anything like that, wanting to play against other competitive teams on a high level. And the fact that a lot of the teams that we have to play are those more, let's just do this for fun, we don't really care that much, that's not really going to help us get to where we want to go. And I know for a lot of those teams, I don't know if it helps them to get completely and utterly destroyed when other teams taking it completely seriously and they're not. So I'm not saying there needs to be a complete separation. I'm just saying there might have to be different steps or different tiers or leagues or something like that. And you can have whimsy in both of those. Just one would be more tailored to, this is serious, this is training like 5 days a week, this is changing your diet, this is trying to be the best you can be, instead of, hey, let's all hang out and just have fun and play this Harry Potter sport.
I think that kind of ties into my turning the IQA into more of an oversight body, because that allows for the creation of separate organizations within the umbrella of the IQA. So there are groups such as the Pittsburgh Quidditch League. I'm going to their Memorial Day barbecue tomorrow. They are not UT. They're not playing anybody else. They're not, they're in it to have fun, and that's the level they're at, and that's great. I don't think we need to say that the less competitive teams are less competitive because they're whimsical, I think is my point.
Okay. That was a lot of good debate right there. However, only because of the technicality of it being the next step is it going to go to Vanessa, because globalization is far off, Matt. Do you honestly see the IQ? Do you see the IQA next year being more likely to say we're gonna kind of help the for fun and the competitive teams split up, or do you think they're gonna launch a new league in France?
I would like to see it. Whether it's likely to happen is a different issue, but it's definitely something I would like to see this year.
Okay, and so Vanessa's got the 1 point lead there, but then what are your guys' thoughts on summer events? We have events like Canada Fantasy, QuidCon, Fireworks, the fantasy tournament down in Southwest because the Southwest is too good for descriptions at this point. We have Northeast Fantasy. Matt, what are your thoughts on these summer events?
So you forgot 2 Mid-Atlantic Fantasy tournaments and the Champagne Cup?
Well, I did forget the Mid-Atlantic tournaments, and I don't even know what the Champagne Cup is because
The Champagne Cup is essentially a mercenary tournament in the Hamptons on Long Island.
See, that's why I don't know what it is because I'm not in the Northeast. So explain it to us.
It's the same thing as all of these other tournaments, and they're great, and they're a lot of fun, and I've been to a few of them. But I think the real summer events are going to happen in the gym. They're going to happen running miles around people's neighborhoods while they're home from college. I think people walked away from this World Cup and saw UT and UCLA and these world-class teams and thought, man, I need to get on that level. And so I think that's really where you need to be watching this summer. See what teams have managed to implement a good gym training program, a good home fitness benchmarks, so that they can continue to improve their skills even when they're not on campus practicing twice a week.
And Vanessa, what are your thoughts on the summer tournament or summer events?
Well, the only two I'm going to be attending would be the fantasy tournaments and the Fireworks tournament. For Southwest, the fantasy tournament, sorry, I keep getting that wrong. I honestly think that this could be a lot more exciting than World Cup. If drafting goes well and the teams are even, or they're relatively even, I think we're going to see a really high level of play throughout the tournament. And it will be really interesting to see people play outside of their team dynamic. Some people are really used to playing only one way with their team, so we can really see how players adapt and get a good be a good judge of how their skills actually are, not just on their team. So that's going to be really interesting. I'm really excited playing that. For Fireworks, I'm really concerned about how it's being run so far. Things have been very up in the air and sort of lackadaisical, and I don't want the LA tournament to be seen as like one of the worst fantasy tournaments this summer. So I'm a little concerned about that. But definitely the fantasy tournament, I have extremely high hopes, and I think it's going to be very exciting.
Okay. Based on your answers, Vanessa broke hers down really well. Matt thought outside the box. So now going to the last question, which neither of you have been given beforehand, it's tied at 1 apiece. So, this last question is, it was thought of a while ago, so neither of you can accuse me of, rigging it. But what are your thoughts on the World Cup trophies in comparison to past years? Matt, you've been to past World Cups. You know what the past ones looked like. You weren't at this year's World Cups. I don't even know if you've seen pictures of it. Vanessa, you held a trophy from this year's tournament, but you haven't been to past ones. So whoever wants to take it away right now, go for it.
So I have seen a few pictures, and I'm impressed with the craftsmanship. I think they're beautiful. I'm not sure that we were ready to move past the vodka bottle hot glued onto a paper plate model. The entire. I'm not even sure. Did a community team break the Sweet 16? This is still very much a college sport, and I really appreciated the whimsy trophy, if you will, in that it kept us grounded as a sport. And I say that pun entirely intended. I think it's important for us to realize that none of us are getting paid for this sport, and we are here to have fun, even if having fun includes waking up at 5:30 6 days a week and giving up soda.
I don't know what your definition of fun is then. That's commitment, but sure as heck want to be having fun while doing it. Vanessa, like I said, you held one of these trophies.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts between the past ones and this year's?
I entirely disagree about the vodka bottle. I think that made sense for where the sport was at maybe a year or two ago. Right now, no, I think it's sort of a slap in the face to all the hard work we have put into this. Personally what UCLA went through, and I can't really attest for what UT went through, but we worked so hard for that. And to have our reward be a tipped over vodka bottle that was spray painted gold seems like a bit of a slap in the face. I liked the new trophies. I liked how they did have the hoops and the little snitches. Ours broke pretty easily, and I'm sure UT's broke too. So maybe work a little bit more on making them sturdy. I did wish they were a little more, how should I say this? More like the Western Cup trophy. Our Western Cup trophy was just this big, huge trophy, and you felt really powerful holding it. And this one was really small and looked sort of flimsy in comparison. I like the idea of having something Quidditch related in the trophy, like the hoops or the snitch. I just wished it looked a little more epic. I don't want to move back towards the vodka bottles. Maybe during fantasy tournaments, maybe for D2 stuff, anything like that. But how much work I put into getting there to be given a vodka bottle, which is something I could buy and drink maybe in a weekend, and then just have that on my shelf, is not very rewarding.
Okay, so are you guys ready for this? You both argued it very, very well. However, Vanessa argued hers a bit better. But then Matt also said, did a community team reach the Sweet 16 when you kept talking about the Lost Boys? They went to the Elite Eight, Matt. Come on.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
I'm sorry. I'd like to personally apologize to Dan Hansen. I was in a beer garden the entire weekend of the World Cup.
Which would actually explain the preference of the vodka bottle.
I'd also like to make a comment that even though, I feel that, the vodka bottle was a great choice, I don't think it matters as much as people are making a big deal out of it. Texas is still the world champion, no matter if they took home a Smirnoff bottle or a wood and metal trophy that apparently broke very soon.
I mean, the thing is, I would rather get nothing than get an alcohol bottle. I would rather not get a trophy than be given that. So I don't know if UT feels the same way, but that's how I feel.
That means we're out of time. So thank you to Matt and thank you to Vanessa. You both did admirably. Both of you were nervous coming into this. We will be back later in the summer. Submit question ideas, submit anything you want, any idea you want to the show, and we will be back. We'll consider your ideas. We're not necessarily going to take them because I'm snarky like that. But thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful month of June. We will see you.